This is the Old North Bridge, a famous historical site in a town known for quite a few historical sites, Concord, Massachusetts. Tourists are out, it's a sunny day, seems like an average day in a town known for its battle sites, hauntings, and American traditions. That's not the story to tell though. The story for me is other people creating their own form of art. The subject, the farms of Concord. The place where this all begins is here, the Umbrella Center for the Arts, formerly known as the Emerson Umbrella Center for the Arts. The program Musketaquid is a program that tries to connect nature and the arts with everyone locally. This is where arts and agriculture was formed.
Well, I have an art background, and I grew up in rural North Carolina. So those two things were primary in my growing up. And I always felt that farmers were not taken for granted so much as just ignored in their ability to exhibit nature as something beautiful, which they deal with every day and they really enjoy and they have an appreciation for, although some people might think that they just do this as a business, and it's more than that. And then as you are trained as an artist, you begin to look at things closer and have an appreciation for them. And I think artists are recorders of a history, which in different mediums will have a benefit to farms.
Happy brought up this idea at one of our Ag Committee meetings, and because I knew of Musketaquid and had been involved with the program and the Earth Day Fair and one thing and another, the Earth Day Parade that Musketaquid has put on forever, I approached the founder of Musketaquid, and she said, "That sounds like a great idea, talk to Nancy."
I was so excited when you came to me and asked about the program, because as an art and environment program, we're always looking for those opportunities to connect people to place. And this seemed like such a natural project for us as a way to continue to promote the landscape and the history and the future of where we live through the arts.
The father of cinema was D.W. Griffith. He said cinema should be about the beauty of the moving wind in the trees. Cross out trees and put in bright yellow squash plants, and at this farm you have cinema at its purest. The natural beauty at its purest here. Not in the vast open fields, but in the little things, in the plants, and in the mud. Especially the tracks of the tractor left in the wet mud. The marks reminded me of the smooth Pahoehoe lava you learn about in high school. But when I came back to the farm again, it was dried out, and the tracks were no longer there in their same surreal nature. The farm is Kenny Farm. Unlike the other farms I visited for the film, it avoids farm stands. It sells goods in wholesale, whether to a broker in Chelsea, Massachusetts, or to sell cabbage used for coleslaw to restaurants. It is also the largest farm I visited. But the owner, Bill Kenny, who took the farm over from his father long ago, insists the farm may be big for Concord, but not big compared to other farms across the state, across the country, or across the world.
My grandfather, actually, his father, which would be my great-grandfather, started farming in Arlington around the Civil War time. He was a Irish immigrant that worked in a mill that made saw blades. And all the product that they made for saw blades went to the south because they were cutting a lot of that southern yellow pine back then. And then when the Civil War happened, the plant closed down because their market was on the other side of the war. And the great-grandfather had a little land with his house and started farming. Then his two sons were teenagers, I guess, at the time, and they worked with him. But my grandfather kept farming, and he farmed in Arlington. This was in Arlington, and they farmed in Arlington until 1922 and moved to Concord in 1922. There was a lot more land besides this piece of land. There was another piece of land on Virginia Road, which was the original Kenny farm. This was a second farm. And my father and uncle farmed all through the 40s and 50s. And in the 60s, growing vegetables around this area was not a very profitable business. It just, most everybody closed down, sold the land for houses. And my father kept this one here, and he put most of it in hay and stuff. So we didn't do any vegetables for quite a few years, because I worked for Mobil Oil. I wasn't here all my life. I worked as a kid, but I worked for Mobil Oil, and that was how I made a living, not here. Somewhere in the 90s, I started planting some pumpkins, and just because I worked at night with Mobil Oil, I was able to come over here in the daytime for a few hours and plow and harrow, whatever I need to do to plant pumpkins and butternuts and stuff that's easy to grow. And I don't have to be here all the time. So I kind of did that on the side besides working for Mobil Oil. And I retired, and I need something to do. If I didn't do this, I'd be sitting around a bar room all day. It's true. I can tell you right now, it's true.
The photographer who captured Kenny Farm is Bob Bicknell. He chooses based on the photos he sent my way to capture the colors and ripeness of the fruit and the beauty of the farm.
If you go into somebody's garden, you'll only have 2 or 3 rows of something, whereas I was able to get to large acres worth of vegetables, and I could, if there were some pieces that weren't quite as photogenic, I could bypass them and pick the ones that looked the best. I could also choose my light so that if I didn't like the light where I was standing, I could walk around to the right or to the left and change my location, and there'd still be wonderful vegetables there. One of the additional things was what I was saying a couple of minutes ago before we started recording, was that I always used to shoot with a tripod 100% of the time, and now I've developed my skills much more so that I can shoot handheld and come up with photos that can still be reproduced at a reasonably large level. So that was something new. And I got some great vegetable pictures. A few of the pictures that I have that I really, really like, I was there one afternoon where Bill and his wife were out on the tractor, and he was in the cab driving the tractor, and she was running a tiller from behind it. And it was just a classic picture of cooperation and the family farm, and they were both covered in dust.
The next artist is Sing Hansen. The farm she's focusing her efforts on is First Root Farm towards the Lincoln Town border. She describes herself as mostly a photographer. Her work can be seen in Polaroids, some digital Photoshop, as well as the photos she has taken around First Root Farm that create a sense of family and community that she is including as part of a quilt.
Well, like a lot of the people on this project, on all of the farms, have had family that were farmers. My great-grandmother was the wife of a farmer, and then my grandmother and grandfather still lived on the farm. They rented it out, and my dad and his father were not farmers, but we lived there. So I knew the farm. I knew the guy that owned the farm next door, and we did what kids do on farms, except work. We had the good parts. Well, it's turned out to be very, very interesting. And on the farms, I love the qualities of just the beautiful colors of the vegetables. I mean, right now they've got purple vegetables in there, and I just love it. Or the chard, the great colors of the chard in the summertime, and I can paint with those pieces.
First Root Farm is a unique farm. The farmers are young, and many went to farming college. They are also on government land that is leased to them by the National Park Service, which puts restrictions on them. For example, they cannot build a well for better water source. This is their last year as a farm. I talked to the farm manager, Laura Sackton, who ultimately made the decision to end First Root Farm's 7-year run.
So I decided that I would take this season to kind of step back a little bit from field management and try to come up with what would happen for the future of the farm. And what I've realized in 2016, which is a drought way worse than last year. It's one of the most extreme droughts that Massachusetts has experienced in the past decade anyway, is that we're really not set up to have this lease be permanent. There's a lot of things that we can't do here that would make the farm sustainable and resilient over the years. And there doesn't seem to be a way. I don't think National Park is, they're not really set up at the moment to have a farm here for the long term. This was intended to be kind of a short-term incubator farm situation. We kind of just kept growing and we were more successful and it was really wonderful. And we sort of realized that this situation is not sustainable. So it's definitely been a bittersweet decision, but I think that it makes a lot of sense. We've had a really great run and I would rather end the farm here, figure out what's next, figure out a way to have a farm in the future that is really sustainable and works, as opposed to keep trying to tax the soil and run a business in a way that's on a lease and on a scale that's just not really viable for the long run.
But you're not done with farming, no?
I don't think so, no. You know, I think farming still really excites me, and there's a lot of things that I really love about it, and I've learned a ton over the past 7 years about how to run a farm and what I love about farming and what aspects of running a business that I like. So I think that kind of in take 2, I'll know a lot more about how to start a farm and how to make it work and sort of what to look for and where that might be.
The final part of the film might be the most fascinating and endearing part of the film. This part of the film is about the last farmer and the last artist I am focusing on. The artist, Lois Anderson, an oil painter, and the farmer, Frank Rotundo.
I think my work is sort of expressionist realist. Yeah, I don't really know a better term than that. I'll let other people figure it out.
You're a painter, though.
Yes. Oil paints have been my love like since the beginning. Actually I was given 2 farms. I was given Frank Shimoni and Frank Rotundo's farms. And I started working and taking pictures in both places, but I really fell in love with the lay of the land and the buildings, the barn and the house at Frank's Rotundo's farm, so I kind of concentrated my efforts there. And he's always been very gracious to take a little time aside from his work and have a chat and explain to me what his work is like and the history of his farm.
And how do you think the relationship with Frank Rotundo has evolved throughout the project?
With me and Frank?
Yeah.
Well, I told my husband that I fell in love with an older man. So I guess it's a pretty good evolution.
Were your parents farmers in Italy? Had they been farmers?
No, strangely, my parents were not farmers. They were born and raised on the Straits of Messina.
Ah.
They were fishermen.
Oh.
The ocean.
Yeah.
And my father left home when he was 16. He wasn't even 17 years old. I was 8 years old when my father bought the place. It had been abandoned for years. Literally.
Yeah.
This was known as Little Italy here. All farmers, all
Oh, yeah.
immigrants, all big families, all worked the land.
Are you're the only one running it now, the farm?
Yeah, I lost my sister 15, 16 years ago already.
Was she helping you?
Well, she went through a long cancer. She went through living hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you took over the farm from your father?
Yeah, the place was going to be sold. I didn't want that to happen at all. It was a hard decision.
Yeah.
I don't regret it a minute. I think it was the right thing for me to do.
When was that? About?
Late 80s.
I hope I would love to be able to convey some of the permanence of the history. Unfortunately, I won't be able to convey the future, which means probably that when Frank goes, the land will be sold and it'll be big fancy houses all over that property, which is really, really tragic to me.
Why is it tragic?
It's tragic because it's a sweet history. It has nothing to do with mass production. It has everything to do with one man and one family history there. The realities of the land becoming so valuable here in a very upscale town will mean that it will be worth certainly a lot more sold as property for housing, but a lot will be lost when that happens.
The historical value as well as the...
Yeah, the history of it and the beauty of it. Something will be really gone. He knows this will happen. I don't have the power or the right to try to persuade him otherwise. But yeah.
The man upstairs has looked out for me.
Yeah.
My goose has been cooked a dozen times, and I'm still here.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but
Well, here we are. We don't get all the answers.
no.
This, to me, the story of artists portraying farms, is far more interesting than the typical history lesson. In a way, they are doing something similar to what I am doing. They are documenting the farms during the 4 seasons. Some with a camera, some with a paintbrush, some with oil paints, some with Photoshop. My documentation was with a camera and a computer to edit with. My documentation, however, began and ended in the summer. Well, they covered all 4 seasons on the Concord farms.